Let's see, as always, we have to give YouTube just a minute to get the people notified that I'm on air. Today is going to be a follow-up topic to what I was talking about yesterday. And that was all about making round circles. But today we're going to talk about literally smooth movement in general at your long arm on a frame specifically. Today is a little more focused on long arms for sure. So let's give YouTube a minute to find the folks out there that are interested in quilting. Meantime, another gorgeous day in the Pacific Northwest. It's not exactly sunny, it's a bit overcast, but it is just a bright and warm day. Oh my goodness, everything's so green. My flower pots, which I planted about 10 days ago, are just flourishing. There we go, a few people are starting to tune in. Okay, let me see some comments so I know for sure we're getting out there. No comments yet, just a couple of people. Come on, YouTube, let's go. It's a process. There we go. Roy Garcia. That's one. Janice. Good, good. Starting to come in. Fantastic. Okay. I'm Susan Smith. You are in my studio, Stitched by Susan. These daily snippets in May and June are just very impromptu, and the topics kind of are spur of the moment, having to do with something I'm working on today or having to do with your comments and questions in the previous few days. So today is definitely a follow-up to yesterday's topic, which was having trouble making round circles. Here's how to fix it. And clearly that struck a chord because about 3,000 people have watched that video in 24 hours. So clearly there are quilters having trouble getting round circles. So I hope my tips were helpful. But today is kind of a follow-up to that because there was quite a lot of chat and comments happening. And so today I wanted to share something mechanical to look for if, in general, you're having trouble with smooth movements at your long arm frame. And I would say, in my mind, at the top of the list, there is one absolute essential to look for if you're having any trouble moving your machine, if it feels harder in any place than others, if you're getting square circles, etc. And that is your frame level? Now, if you had someone else set up your frame, they should have checked for that. But if you have shifted the frame at all, or if you were the person to set it up, maybe you don't know this for sure. Maybe it was secondhand and you just set it up in your room and you think your floor is level, it looks level, and you've just gone with it. This is super critical. When we set my machine up, my husband and I did build my whole frame for my Bernina. We had a huge carpenter's level, which is I think 4 feet long, and we moved that around in different places on the table and different rails and checked and double checked and triple checked everything. But if you don't have a carpenter's level, there's a pretty simple way to know if you need to take further steps, and that is move your long arm anywhere on your rail, and I would do this several places, and then let go, and does it stay exactly where you put it, or does it roll? Because if it moves at all, then your frame is leaning in the direction in which it moved. So you can see how that works, right? Even if you don't have a carpenter's level, if your machine is tilting toward the back at all, your machine is going to coast a little bit backwards. If your machine is tilted toward one side or the other, it's going to coast a bit. So I do recommend trying it in a few places, the full length of your frame, but you should be able to let go, and it should stay precisely where you put it and not move at all. So you can see in your mind's eye why this is so critical to free motion quilting. Because when you are guiding the machine from the handlebars, you need smooth and equal movement in every direction. My machine weighs about 45 pounds. So if there is the minutest difference in that leveling, if it's not quite level, then I'm going to be pushing uphill. And the amount of effort it takes to push a 45-pound machine even up 1/8 of an inch of a hill is significant. It is immediately going to affect the smoothness of my movement. So this is the number one thing I would check for. Bottom line, is your frame level? Okay, let's hear some comments and maybe even some good stories about level or not level machines. Beth and Tammy and Jenny and Melinda and Kayla and Daphne and Catherine. Okay, I so want to hear some stories. Anne from France. Brenda, Cindy. Yes, I'm having trouble with smooth movements. So I'm going to give you a second corollary, and a second most essential thing that I would check for, but leveling is at the top, absolutely at the top. But a few comments did come in, a bit like yours, Cindy, just I'm having trouble with smooth movements. The next thing that I would look for is at every one of your wheels and where they're connecting to the rails, but particularly around the wheels. Like, get in under your machine where you can see and check, are there any bits of thread? They can be almost invisible. Like, you almost need a magnifying glass and a flashlight in there to be sure. Are there any bits of thread around those wheels? Because again, it takes so little to start inhibiting the movement of this heavy machine, and right away your smooth movements just go down the drain just so rapidly. So any little bit of thread, or any lint for that matter, but bits of thread are culprits. And you and I both know in our sewing room, thread seems to fly everywhere. So it has happened to me multitudes of times, honestly, where I get in under there to clean my wheels and I find actually there's a thread wound around, and sometimes really wound around, and sometimes I'm amazed that my machine actually is still going fairly smoothly. So that's the next thing I would look for. Okay, let's look for some more comments. Janice, I have one spot on my frame like a hill, just a few inches that gives me trouble. No seam, no idea how to fix. I mean, if it's the same spot on your frame all the time, Janice, I'm just spitballing here. Like, is there a problem in your rail? Is there actually a physical bulge in your rail? Because it seems like that could be a thing when it's just in one specific spot. Corey, I've moved my machine multiple times. Leveling is so important. Yes, it is. It is top-notch importance. It will make your life so much easier. Laura Gray, I love this. Clay soil in North Texas causes the need for constant adjustments. I was going to say that earlier, Laura, and I thought, people won't relate. I used to live in the far north country, and our homes literally shifted with the frost coming and going between winter and summer, and our floors would shift. Doors would start not closing or flying open easily, or whatever the case was, right? The level would literally shift from season to season. And so if that's the case for you, know to check for that. If your machine starts rolling away on you, you better check it. Corey, dusting off the rails is important too. Yes, and I have talked about that within regular cleaning processes before, but certainly dusting the rails for lint, but also occasionally cleaning the wheels and rails. And I usually start with just a scrap piece of batting, and I often end with an alcohol swab because there is some residue just from the friction and movement of the wheels, depending on what materials your wheels are made of. Mine are metal, and so I do see that a bit. Cindy, I'll be spending the next little bit of time leveling. It's worth looking into, and it's magical when it fixes the problem. Paula, I had a very long piece of thread wrapped around a wheel on my carriage. So glad I looked. I had just gotten my Longarm, so I didn't know much. Yep, and thread, like, it can just get in the littlest places and be almost invisible. Catherine, lint, thread, dust makes such a difference in the smoothness of my rails and machine. It's so true, but truly, it just smooths out your quilting journey so much. And I don't mean that to be a play on words, but it does smooth out your quilting journey. Roy, the alcohol wipes are a great idea. Yes, and I honestly get them. My daughter's a nurse, so I have easy access to medical supplies, but I think drugstores will sell them, just a little box of the prepackaged individual alcohol swabs. But if you don't have that, something that's lint-free and a little bit of rubbing alcohol will do the same thing, right? So a microfiber cloth, not a Kleenex, right? Not even a piece of batting, because that can drop some lint too. So that alcohol swab, you should be really sure is lint-free. And the beautiful thing about the alcohol is it dries, right? That's why that's preferable to using just a damp cloth. The alcohol swab is a great choice because it dries in the air quite quickly. Corey, my husband is a saint because he's the one that helps with the leveling. I mean, mine too, honestly. Janice is asking any tips on speed for not loops, but something like paisleys that have stops and direction changes. I mean, I do talk about some of those tips, Janice, in my free motion quilting masterclass. What are some quick ones? I think my first tip is always going to be, like I said yesterday, if you're having trouble with shapes, slow down until you get your form right? Until you get that movement, that motion right, and until you're getting the shape you desire. And then gradually speed up. And if in the process of forming that shape, you find specific resistance, like it's not just you controlling, but it literally is resisting at some point, then you need to look for some of these things we've been talking about. The leveling of the machine, the errant threads, lint, dust, etc. your machine should move smoothly. I hesitate to say here, but I almost have to. The better quality your machine and rail, the better chance you have that all will move perfectly smoothly. The more makeshift or I call them garage style machines, the cheaper the machine, it's a little bit like driving a Ford Pinto, right? You might not ever be able to achieve 100% smoothness, but you will still be helped if you look for all these things and eliminate any of the problems. And I don't mean to badmouth inexpensive long arms. Sometimes that's just where we're at. But certain things like, for example, a rail that has a splice in the middle might never be precisely flat and smooth, and so your machine might roll, right? So just know that the better quality machines will always give you a smoother ride, just like, you know, the higher quality cars will be quiet and smooth. It's a little bit like that with long arm machines too. So I don't want to get too far down that rabbit trail, but there you go. Okay, I missed Margaret's good idea. Here we are. I wonder if frame and machine being set up on carpet and settling occurs. I move my machine to different spots on the rail when not using. I don't know the answer to that, Margaret, but that is a great thought, especially if you've got a carpet that's got fairly deep pile, right? It's worth checking your level for sure from time to time. From time to time. Mine is on carpet, by the way. I'm on sort of your very average. We live in a rental property, and so it's your not expensive, your very average sort of 1-inch pile. It seems to be fine. That in itself, because I am in a walkout basement, is on concrete. And we looked for that when we were looking for a place, so I'm pretty confident of my underlying levelness. So, Paula, another great suggestion. Check to make sure your cords are not in the way or catching or resisting on anything. Absolutely. This is a thing for me because I almost always have camera cables, like extra cables out the back of my machine. And every so often, if you've watched Alive and Unscripted, you've maybe heard me say that sometimes to Dave. I'm like, can you check the cables because they're pulling? And I can literally feel that, right? It's real. It's real. Corey, I have an entry-level machine and can tell the difference when I use a higher quality machine, but that's okay with me. I just wanted to see if long arming was for me. Absolutely, and that's why I say I don't want to badmouth any brand. Each of us is in our own journey and we use what we can and afford, and any long arm is easier than quilting at a domestic sewing machine, so it's just one step up, right? That's just from my experience, that the better quality machines do work a little easier. And Paula is chiming in, yes, carpet can level, let's see, does settle and your frame can become unlevel. Yeah. Carol Joy, great to catch a live show. And yes, I've had problems at times with my levelness and had to re-level the machine with wooden blocks. My husband is a great carpenter. Awesome. Sometimes it's less than wooden blocks. Sometimes it's the thickness of a piece of cardboard. Sometimes my frame, for example, has the little feet that are adjustable, right? You can spin them. So it's a two-person job, right? One person is holding up the machine and the other is screwing that or loosening that a little bit, and then you check the level again. So it's often a two-person job. Yep, Roy, you're exactly right. My machine's an older Tin Lizzie on a Phoenix frame, still saving for an upgrade. Absolutely, that's the way to go. I will put in a tiny plug here for used machines. That's how I started, because I knew that I wanted an industrial quality, usability standard of machine, and I couldn't afford a new one. So I went looking for a used one and found a heck of a deal, my first long arm out. So that's always an option too. My personal preference, but I would rather have a high quality machine used than an entry-level machine straight out of the factory. Just my personal preference. I'm going down the rabbit trails today. Yes, I am. Okay, you guys, that's about it for today. Remember that I am going live every day this week through Saturday, and I welcome your comments and even your questions and topics, and I'll try to bring them out in future little live episodes. Also, I will be doing my Live and Unscripted show on YouTube this Friday. It's at 9 a.m. Pacific, and I think I know which quilt I'm doing, but it's not 100% for sure, so watch for my email newsletter. Probably tomorrow, perhaps Thursday morning, that will tell you what quilt I'm working on. So join for that if you can. And many of you know by now, my style of quilting is very much free motion, for one thing, and edge to edge. I quilt a lot of just family use and gift quilts. And so what I'm doing this week is I've got enrollment open to my free motion quilting masterclass, wherein I teach the style of quilting that I do on my Friday shows. And in fact, a lot of the same designs are featured. But in the masterclass, I teach those same designs step by step. I draw them out, I quilt them on high contrast fabric, and I talk you through a lot of my processes. And my real goal in that course is to not only teach you a number of designs, there are over 25 in the course, but to teach you my thought process in coming up with those designs, showing you how they've changed over the years, and how you can develop your own designs and what makes a really good one, how to fix things that aren't working when you're moving around the quilt top, etc., etc. So it's a bit like, you know, teaching a man to fish, right? And he'll never go hungry. I'm trying to teach you how to free motion quilt and how to come up with your own original design. So that's what the free motion masterclass is all about. If you want more information, head to my website, stitchedbysusan.com. Go to the Learn tab, scroll down a little bit. You'll see the masterclass. There's information on all the modules, etc., etc. All the lessons are pre-recorded and are open as soon as you enroll. But in addition, there is some support offered. For example, I have 6 live Zoom Q&A sessions with me, so feedback and coaching. We have a private Facebook group for the students, optional, but a great community, and there's a few hundred alumni in there, right? So you get the hive mind going to work in there. So a few things to support it. Anyway, you know where to go, the website, if you want more info on that. Carol Joy, the masterclass has taught me a great deal about edge to edge and free motion, and I enjoyed every segment. It's well worth it. Thank you for that. And the masterclass is super. Anne is a new enrollee, and I'm so happy you are enjoying it, Anne. All right, you guys, I'm going to head off to today. You can see I'm just getting a quilt loaded. This is just the backing. And of course, I have a bunch of office work today too. So that's what I'll be doing today. You guys enjoy your day, and I will see you back here again tomorrow at approximately the same time.